Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Silver. Joining us today is my good friend, Jeffrey Tucker. He is the founder and president of the Brownstone Institute. He's also the former editorial director of the American Institute for Economic Research. Welcome back, sir.
That's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's always great having you on Wall Street Silver. It's so much excitement happening in the precious metals market. Gold is going up, silver is starting to bump up a little bit too and catching up. What are you seeing happening right now, Jeffrey,
Well,
in the precious
it's
metals?
it's a reflection of everything that's happening with all commodities and an indication that inflation is far from over. I think the Wall Street Journal had a headline something like the Fed's battle victory in the fight against inflation is proving elusive. I mean
I seen that, yeah.
something just ridiculous like that. So yeah, the precious metals markets are reflecting this, and you're seeing it just across the board. The numbers are terrible, and and arguably getting worse for at least the last 60 days, if you can even trust the numbers.
Yeah.
I think, as we talked about last time, once you include the cost of borrowing there for the interest rates, then you can push 2023 inflation up to 18%. So,
Jeez.
and if you go back and recalculate inflation the way they used to in the 1980s, then it's going to be even higher than that. So, and you know this from your grocery bills, you can see it
Yeah.
going on all the time. And one of the things that I think people make a mistake with CPI is they think, I mean, so there's no such good or service called the CPI. You don't actually buy it. You buy individual products and services, and you don't buy all the components of the CPI every day. You buy them just when the time comes. And so every day, American consumers are experiencing this wild sticker shock, like what happened to prices? And don't forget that we were told all this was transitional. So that kind of cultivated an attitude in the public that somehow we were going back to 2019 prices. That that
Yeah.
that view was carried around for a very long time. And so here we are 4 years later, and we have the gradual dawning on the part of people that, wow, we have been pillaged.
Yeah.
My purchasing power is down 25, 30% or more, and I can't even think about buying a house or borrowing for a car or anything else. So it's a massive decline in the standard of living. And it even makes it worse that you have major reporters like this guy, Greg Ip, at the Wall Street Journal, who has a big article that I think appeared yesterday saying that consumers are completely wrong,
Yeah,
actually.
I seen that.
So I took that article apart for the Epoch Times. And what's funny about this guy is, he's an economist and an expert and an intellectual, and he's saying, oh, the public's all wrong. Actually, it's getting better. But there's no sense in which that is at all true. So, his disdain for people's regular experience is quite something.
Weird.
Yeah, it's a kind of a form of gaslighting. So yeah, there's so much decay and all the essential indicators that we're looking at right now. And what's making me crazy, and I never quite believe it, is that we're living in this kind of fictional world. I mean,
Yeah.
so all the growth is fictionalized. We've got underlying decay. I don't think we ever really left the recession of 2020, as I mentioned to you.
Yeah.
And now, gross output is falling, and we've got a developing real estate crisis and commercial real estate in major cities. We got the biggest skyscraper in Brooklyn just foreclosed. It's just a calamity. And then the jobs numbers came out this morning. We can talk about that, but it looks so terrible. And yet the headlines keep telling you that everything is great.
We're
So
just in a
anyway,
false sense of reality. Like people don't know what to believe anymore, Jeffrey.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
do you think they do that purposely? Of course, just to
yes,
confuse the public so that way
sure,
it's like, oh, don't look at the real inflation numbers.
sure.
Here's the gaslighting.
Sure, it's, the reason the Wall Street Journal headline this morning is about 303,000 new jobs that were created. And it just goes on. It never stops. And it makes us all crazy. And it's become almost predictable. Like the more exuberant and optimistic the headline is, the more likely it is that you're going to find the underlying decay once you just take a, you know, I timed myself this morning. It took me 4 seconds to discover that all these jobs are part-time jobs and we had a net loss of full-time jobs. That took me 4 seconds of looking at that.
How did you find it out? How did you find that out?
Well, it's just a matter of you go to the BLS and you look
Mhm.
at the very first chart and scroll down the page and look at the part-time jobs,
Wow.
and they're right there. They're screaming at you, and there is no way these reporters can't do the same thing I did. It took me 4 seconds to discover it. They're not really hiding it. What happens is they put out these press releases, and these reporters are too lazy. I used to say that. I don't think that that's the problem. I don't think it's lazy reporters. I think these major opinion journals like the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and so on are just basically amplifiers of deep state priorities.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to be so dark and cynical about it, but that seems to me what's actually going on.
Yeah, it's it's becoming a really it's actually really scary because even if you look at Canadians and Americans all alike, what you said, people don't know what the real inflation number is because, of course, it's manipulated. But looking at the grocery bills, I hear it every single day. People saying everything's getting more expensive, gas is more expensive. Canada now just raised 23% more in carbon taxes in 1 month. And, people. I seen a video of a lady yesterday and she was absolutely in tears. She was an elderly lady, I think in her like 60s or 70s, and she said she's still working full time. And she said she's a Canadian, and she was basically explaining that she has the extra $200-300 in carbon tax for her energy bills, so she can't afford food to buy her to go to groceries for 1 week. Yeah,
Yeah, they're starving us and also lying to us. In the US right now, we have this very weird situation where you have this complete collapse of the EV industry. I mean, it's like this wild bubble.
yeah,
Everybody's going to be driving around EVs. It's a great new technology. Then we had a little bit of experience with them, and now you can't even give the things away, and every rental car company is getting rid of them, and so on. But at that very same time, you have the Biden administration mandating them. So, we're in this weird situation where we have market signaling going on in the presence of a command economy. I don't know how this resolves itself. Are
yeah.
are the car manufacturers just going to make cars and dump them in the ocean? That would actually be illegal. So I don't know how this resolves itself. It's a major problem. But the thing is that the gold and silver markets are telling the truth, as
Yeah,
are the crypto markets. They're kind of, that's an indicator of what's really going on. And people intuitively understand. So when you have the Wall Street Journal, reporting, oh, inflation's going down, jobs are going up, GDP is soaring, when actually it's just the pile-on of government debt,
yeah,
government spending, and these are the loss of full-time jobs in exchange for part-time jobs for non-natives, and inflation keeps getting worse, as you can easily tell, then it just means that people start trusting the news media less.
yeah. And that's and you're probably at a stage right now where if you read like there's an AI boom, people putting all this money, Jeffrey, into AI that's running up. But if you really look at it, what really has wealth is like precious metals, silver and gold. And central banks are buying gold at all-time records right now. And when you look at that, Jeffrey, you see these central banks buying gold. They're clearly seeing something that we don't. They see that the real numbers of the economic instability is going to continue to rise. So what happens with gold and silver? Do they continue to rise? Are they going to have some kind of stop off, or does it even matter what price the gold and silver is at right now?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's going to continue to go up because there's very few safe havens left. It's like we usually talk about. It's real estate, gold and silver, and not commercial real estate at this point in the cities. That is headed for calamity, and that is gradually arriving. So yeah, I would say bullish on gold, but the stocks in general. What you've got is a central banking elite structure that realizes that so long as people's 401ks are going up, they can get away with anything.
Right.
So that is a huge priority. And we should talk about Powell really quickly because Powell keeps trying to lower rates. Now, that by itself is interesting
Right.
because under the conventional central banking playbook, you only lower rates, you intervene to lower rates for counter cyclical reasons, meaning that you're headed into a recession. You don't lower rates in the presence of this a glorious economic boom that the miraculous
Yeah,
economic.
everyone just thinks it'll be fixed, lower the
Yeah.
rates, and yeah,
Yeah, it's so strange because you have the news media saying, "Oh, the Biden's miraculous economic recovery." Meanwhile, you've got the Fed saying, "Oh, we're going to lower rates." Well, why are you lowering rates
yeah,
if growth is good and we're living through, the best of times?
right.
Okay, the reason they want to lower rates is because they know where things are heading. They can't disguise it for that much longer. The problem is that the inflation numbers are not cooperating with them. Now we're talking about we're in early April now, headed in an election year. So the goal will be for Powell to try to start pushing rates down in August or September, but they're only going to be able to get away with that if inflation starts getting much better right away,
Right.
like dramatically better right away. And I'm not sure that that's going to happen. It seems like we've
No.
been through 60 days of opposite trends. We don't even know. If you look at the charts of even the conventional CPI, without including the cost of money, without all the bad stuff, it's possible that we've just went through a temporary dip and we're headed back up again. Nobody really knows for sure. We've got $5 or $6 trillion in newly created money that's still sloshing around, going here and going there, and we've got an upward trend in velocity, too, which adds to the price pressure. So I'm in no sense certain that we're through the worst of it with inflation.
And you have instability in Middle East, and you have all the geopolitical issues around the world, and Ukraine and Russia still at war. So, like, there's so many issues around the world that I don't think inflation is going to go down anytime soon, um, because there's just no way. I hear it every single day at the grocery stores. I hear it every single day, even going to the gym. Everyone's saying they literally can't afford it, especially where I'm living. So, uh,
Oh yeah, there was another article in the New York Times. Forgot to mention this one. So this guy who's at the University of Michigan or something like that says, "Oh, don't worry about inflation. Look, it just goes like this. Yes, you had to add a zero to your prices at the store, but you can add a zero to your income, and then it's all fine. It all just so I mean that it's
uh,
just like this is what we pay intellectuals to do, right? I mean, just
uh,
spout off their models. What this forgets is that it's not adding a zero to your savings. So uh,
yeah,
and savings is the basis of investment. Investment's the basis of prosperity and growth for the future. So inflation actually pillages savings. So he doesn't mention this. He doesn't mention the transition costs from one set of prices to another, and doesn't mention the injection effects of as expelled out by Richard Cantillon. And that is that under inflationary conditions, certain people get the money first before it's spent and prices go up. In this case, it was the banks,
the military
the
industry.
government,
Uh,
yeah, all the and pharma and big tech and all the people who benefited from pandemic policies during the great money printing frenzy of 2020 and 2021. They all got to use the newly created money from Fed's bond buying.
at the top.
Yeah, long before the inflation
Yeah.
arrived. So it
Yeah.
amounted to a dramatic transfer of wealth away from the poor middle class to the ruling classes.
Well, you see, people don't even think about that. Hey, they get the money first, they get to spend it first, and then the effects later on, because their money's out there now,
Yeah,
is gonna hit the middle class.
yeah. Well, it was just funny
Uh,
to me. The New York Times headlining this article, and I think the article is called something like "Inflation, Don't Worry, Be Happy." I mean,
Jeez. Uh,
it's, like- it's
uh,
embarrassing for me because part of me wants the economists to be better, but
right. Me too.
instead they keep, deploying their modeling and their simple little theoretical postulates on behalf of covering up for the monetary depredations that are going on, every single day.
Yeah.
They know better, I promise you.
Oh, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they're
Yeah,
smart people. The people gaslighting us, they know what they're doing. Yeah.
they do. They do.
Yeah. Well, Jeffrey, it's such a huge pleasure having you come back to Wall Street Silver. Where can people connect with you? Where can they get your stuff?
I'm on X a lot of time these days. I mean, it's the only uncensored platform, and also Brownstone Institute. I'm always happy for people to go and subscribe to our once a week email.
That's perfect. Again, it's a huge pleasure having you on. And again, thank you everyone for watching.
Pleasure.